customer PPP applications. There is a list. You can contact me and I can give you some names that you can reach out to if that opens back up. Again, if it opens back up, a couple of things you're going to want before you start filling out the application is your W-3, your 940s, and then if you offer any kind of benefits to your employees, you'll want some sort of benefit summary. It needs to be something either from a payroll processing company, from a QuickBooks, or something like that. It can't be anything just written on a piece of paper. Is the loan forgiven? With the PPP, most of you know that it is forgiven as long as you adhere to the rules. If you use 75% of the funds for payroll expenses, you can't cut any employees or their number of hours that they work for that 8-week period after you close on your loan. You will also need to supply the documentation how you spent those funds to be able to get the forgiveness. At the end of that 8 weeks, you'll go back to your lender, ask for forgiveness. And then if you, for some reason, only spend 70% of those funds on payroll, that 5% would then be pulled into that loan. You would have 2 years to pay it off at that 1% interest. Oops, I'm sorry. If you do not have employees but do have independent contractors, I know this question has come up a lot. And originally when it first came out, we were told that if you had 1099s, you could consider those as employees and still apply for the PPP. But they changed that when they realized with the forgiveness it'd be very hard for 1099s, since they don't have that consistency that hourly and salary employees have, to be able to prove that you were using those funds, that 75%. So they've changed it that you can still apply for the PPP if you pay yourself, and then your 1099s can use their own 1099 numbers from their tax returns to apply for the PPP as well. And then yesterday, I pulled some figures for if any PPP loans have been approved yet, and as of the 13th, Texas, we had the highest number of loans. We had over 88,000 loans approved, and we had also processed more than $21 billion in approved loans. So for the EIDL loan, as we were saying, right now it is closed down for applying, but in the PowerPoint that you'll be supplied from today, I have a link here where you can apply. I recommend again that before you go to the loan application, if it opens back up, that you have your 12 months of revenue and expenses, along with your banking information and your EIN number. If you have those 4 things, you should be able to complete that loan application within about 20-30 minutes. Where can you get loan application updates? This is one of the biggest questions we're getting right now. You can call this 800 number, and you can also email. The 800 number, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people in call centers. So when I called a couple days ago, I was, I think, 957 in line, but I was only on hold for 24 minutes, which I didn't think was bad. All they could tell me was that my application was received, but it had not been assigned to a caseworker yet. So what they're telling us basically is about 3 weeks from the time that you applied before you'll hear from a caseworker, but check your email. That's how they will communicate with you. Another question we get a lot is about the grant. So the grant is calculated by $1,000 per employee, but the process works that once you're assigned to a caseworker, if you are pre-approved, that's when those advanced grants are then calculated and sent out within 5 business days. And then from there, if you're approved for, say, a $15,000 loan and you had a $5,000 grant, your loan would actually be for $10,000, but $5,000 of that is forgiven. So that's the way that is working with that advance. What is the difference between a forbearance and a deferment? So if you have a forbearance, that's basically a delay in payments. So if you have pay $400 a month for a mortgage payment and they tell you they're going to give you a 90-day forbearance, at the end of those 90 days, you will owe that $1,200 plus any other interest or fees or anything like that. A deferment moves to the end of the loan. So if your loan was to mature, say, May of 2021, you would now maybe mature in August of 2021 with those 3 additional payments pushed to the end. That's what you're looking for, unless you know you're going to be getting some other supplemental funds to cover that forbearance. Those can be pretty dangerous. Another question was, could you apply for both the EIDL and the PPP? And of course you can, but you can't double dip. So if you're using your payroll calculations for the PPP, you would not use those when you are applying for the EIDL. The unemployment we were talking about right before this started, self-employed and 1099s can all apply for unemployment through the Texas Workforce. And I was just saying that Texas Workforce is really pushing a ton of information out through their social media, way more than they normally do. If you visit on Facebook, the Texas Workforce Commission's page, you'll find a lot of information. They also recently added over 700 people to their call center on this Monday. So you're able to get through a little bit easier to get some of those answers answered. Just a few things. I know that Mike is going to touch on a lot of this as he goes into his presentation, but just a few things that we've been talking to clients about as they're calling in and they're saying, we applied for the loan, what do we do next? These are some things that you have not had time for before, and that could be updating your website. People build websites and then they never go back and touch them again. They say, oh, I have a website, but is your website functional? Is it up to date? Is it current? Is it really with where websites should be now? They change constantly. Are your keywords updated? Has your revenue stream changed? Those sort of things. Or how can you apply it to today's world? Is there something you can sell online? Can you update your website from being an information website to maybe an e-commerce website? Keep that revenue coming in. Updating your Google My Business. Google My Business has a ton of things that you can do, including updating your hours with everything that's going on right now. You can add employees to help you manage it if you're being overrun by people asking questions. You can also schedule out social media posts. So one of the great things is you can use something like Hootsuite, or Facebook has their own scheduling program, that sort of thing. But if every Wednesday you're going to do a Wow Wednesday post or a Thank You Thursday post or something like that, you can go through and schedule out all those posts for, say, the next 3 months with this downtime that you have, and then organically post around it when business starts coming back up and as you're posting. But right now, you should be posting on social media. You should continue to engage with your customers, whether that's pushing information, asking them to chime in about what's going on in the world, just any way to engage with your customers. Participate in webinars like you are today. Find ways to improve your business and grow your business. Many times, a lot of industries have special associations, or maybe there's a special group on Facebook that you can join. A lot of them are having webinars right now. That's the big thing. It's a great time to educate yourself, and a lot of them are free, so take advantage of that. Reach out to a business advisor or a business coach like myself at the SBDC or like Mike at Action Coaching. Both of us, and there's many others in the area too, are here to help. A lot of times small business owners need someone that they can voice ideas and plan things through. Mike has some great programs that you start, and then at the end you come out with all kinds of great goals. We are very generalist, a lot of general business advising, and we are here to help as well. And the other thing is build a business resiliency plan, and that's to help you in case something like this ever happens again. Do this while these things are fresh. What happened? What would you have done different if you could do things different? Cross-train employees, alternate revenue streams, maybe alternate sourcing. Maybe some of your vendors are in the same situation you're in. Where are you going to get the products you need when you start back up, hopefully very soon? And this is just my contact information. If there's anything I can do for you, I just want you to reach out. And I do want to tell you, LiftFund, LiftFund.com also has a program right now that they are in working with Goldman Sachs, and it's a $50 million loan program for the COVID-19 here in Texas. So that wasn't part of the slides, but I wanted to push that out too. And now I will let Mike start sharing his.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Let me get my screen up here. A lot has changed here in the last month or two, and I think we've all experienced that. Does anyone not really know what this is at this point? We've all seen it everywhere. It's entered into the art world and everything else. 2 months ago, we might have said this was the dog's chew toy or some kind of sea life or something, but we all know now that it is COVID-19. And in fact, we have a whole new vocabulary that we've adopted in business and in society as a whole. First of all, the COVID-19 coronavirus. Who ever heard of this before this year? And of course, COVID stands for, CO is corona, the VI is for virus, the D stands for disease, and 19 is the year in which it was first hatched in China. So it's become part of our vocabulary, as well as all the things that Amy just talked about, EIDL, PPP, the CARES Act, all these things have happened that we've had to rush and understand that we didn't know about before. And then, of course, there's the all-time favorite, social distancing, which has had such an effect on us. And N95, everybody knows what that is right now. All of those things, those two things designed to flatten the curve. Another addition to our vocabulary. We're all talking about flattening the curve and so forth. If you watch the news, that's what you hear all the time. And then our beloved Zoom bombers. Anybody who has been on a lot of Zoom calls may have been Zoom bombed, and that's where somebody makes access to the call and creates all kind of havoc and controls the screen with sometimes obscene pictures and so forth. It's not very much fun, but it has become a thing now, Zoom bombing, that the platforms like Zoom and GoToWebinar and some of the other ones are all putting security in place. That's why you had to go to the waiting room first before you were admitted into this call. And so it's just a sign of the times. Pivot is another one. I wish I had $1 for every time I've said the word pivot in the last 2 months, because I could retire now. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but it's something that's in top of mind now. It's one of the main business terms that people are talking about, and so we're going to talk about it a little bit today. Reopening the economy. Who would have thought that we would even have to say this, that the economy would be closed? So reopening the economy, it's never had to happen before, and so it's a new experience for everyone, but we're all talking about it. And the last one is make a new plan, Stan. Okay, 2020, whatever you thought it was going to be at the beginning, it's not going to be. And so it's time to make a new plan. So a lot of the things that Amy was talking about, those are critical items that need to be taken seriously and taking place now. But what happens to that? So everybody, ask yourself the question, what is your path forward? What's your path forward? You need a new plan. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to get to the point where we're not completely 100% obsessed with EIDL, PPP, CARES, and all these things. Let's move on and figure out what our path is onward, because this is going to end, and it's going to be a different business environment for most of us or all of us. And so we need to make a plan for that and then follow the path. So first of all, we need to understand that we're fighting a war on 3 fronts, okay? First of all, the virus. There's not a lot we can individually do about that unless we're a doctor or a researcher, but yet we are taking the actions that we need to with social distancing and staying home and closing businesses and all of that, which is causing the second war front, which is the economics of it. So that's also being dealt with, and we're going to talk about that a little bit and how you can overcome that. And then the third one, which not enough people are talking about, is a mindset. That's our mindset as business owners, and the mindset of our teams and our customers and our suppliers and so on and so forth. So mindset is really key. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that, because if you can't master your mindset, all the rest of it is just a moot point. So so I want to talk a little bit about this. In everybody's mind, there is a point of equilibrium. And it's different for everybody. It can't be quantified, but it's there. If you are below this point, you're living in a world of blame, excuses, denial. So examples of that are, for denial, oh, this is not a problem, it's going to go back, it's a hoax, it's going to go away in 2 weeks. You don't hear about that as much anymore, but right at the beginning, that was a thing. That this wasn't real, and all we have to do is hunker down and wait. The top one is blame, okay? Blame Trump, blame China, blame somebody. Blame, it doesn't do any good to place blame unless you're taking action. And then excuses, well, I don't have enough money, I don't, uh, there's all kinds of things that we can fall back into when we're under stress. And if you're living in this world of blame, excuses, and denial, you're really in a powerless position. And so what we work with our clients on in particular is being above this line, which means you take ownership of everything that's going on in your business. You didn't cause this problem. It's not your fault, but you still need to react to it and take action. Hold yourself accountable for the decisions that you're making during this time. Some people are making good decisions and some people aren't, and some people aren't making decisions at all. So whatever is happening, be accountable and be responsible for doing what you need to do to propel your business into the rest of this year. If you're below the line, it creates a powerless situation. If you're above it, it makes you powerful. So just think about where you are on this chart. Are you living in blame and denial, or are you taking ownership and trying to take some action and being responsible for you, your family, and your team? This is a curve that we're using, and it kind of shows the process that all of us are going through during this period of time. The bottom line is the time continuum. On the side is the level of morale and focus that you and your team are having. So at first there's shock, then there's denial, then there's anger and frustration, which could go into depression, and so forth until you come out of it, accept it, and start solving problems. It's natural to go through this curve. If any of you have studied sociology or similar psychology, this is a lot like the when somebody passes away, where you're mourning. It's like the mourning curve. And so it's natural to go through it. The trick is to get through it as quickly as possible and get onto acceptance and being able to actually deal with the problems and solve them for your business. As business coaches, we were able to move through this right away and get to the part of acceptance and problem solving, so that we were in a position to help other businesses. This is what we're trained to do. This is what we're all about. Amy can probably say the same thing, that we didn't have the luxury of living in denial and frustration and anger. We were faced with reality every day and knew we had to get through the other side of this curve so that we could help other businesses to solve problems. So I'm showing you that because I'm going to ask you a question. Where are you on this curve? And where is your team? And how can we help? If you're to the left side, how can we help you get past depression and start solving the problems and moving forward? You have got to have a plan. You've got to figure out what your path is going forward. And if your own mindset is stopping you, we need to get past that first. Okay, so changing your mindset. As I said, take ownership, be accountable, be responsible. And here's something for you to think about. The gap between a stimulus and the action is where change in direction can occur. So think about this. You have some stimulus. Maybe it's an open flame and you're getting burnt. You have to take action right away. There isn't a lot of thought to that. You react naturally, and it's probably the way you've always done it. In business, we're getting a stimulus. We don't need cash flow. Our business is closed. It's easy to react and maybe make the wrong decisions if you do it too quickly. So slow down, think, and try to decide the best path to take. It's called critical path thinking. And as coaches, we can help you with that. But sometimes your initial reaction on what to do is either not enough or it's the wrong thing and will take you off in the wrong direction. There's been so much attention and obsession on these loans and bailouts and stimulus and all that. It's a good thing. It's going to help a lot of businesses, but it may not be enough to get us through to the other side so that we can continue to grow and thrive when this is all over. So we're going to talk a little bit later about how to do that. Now here's another curve, and I'll ask the same question again. Where are you on this curve? When we were at the top of the curve, things were going great. We were just going into spring break and all these other things. All of a sudden, this virus comes along. So businesses started to slide down this slippery slope. And there's several levels here. The big ingredient is losing control. I mean, no matter what is going on in your business, you can't control the virus. You can't control what the government is doing. You can't control any of those things, but you can control what's going on inside your business. So the idea is, and what we try to do is catch businesses before they've lost control, or even if they have lost control, get them back into being in control and find the path to turn around. Even if you're sliding down the slope, it's not too late. If you can pivot, if you can make a plan, if you can read accurately what your environment is around you, what your competition is doing, what your customers want, there is a path to turn around. There's also a point of no return where you get into the red and it could result in business closing and liquidation. So we try to prevent that. We want to work with every business we can to find the path forward and go to turnaround. Okay, so it's a reality check. Are you in control of your business? You need to face the new reality. And we don't know exactly what that is yet. We can kind of guess. We're getting an inkling of it. But you need to plan for what you see happening around you. You have to understand your options. And understanding those is the first step. Get in tune with your customers. Like Amy said, now is a good time to practice drip marketing, where you're communicating constantly in little bits and drabs. We have a 17-point pivot checklist, and we've also got a list of 15 specific resources that every business can use to reallocate to help them in this time. But the fact is, the world probably will not look the same as when we come out of this as when we went in, and that's the reality. And so it's up to us as business owners to be able to read that, to adapt, and to choose a different path forward. Okay. So, okay, here's another chart and another curve. What this one shows is the importance of taking action now. So there's a tendency on the part of some business owners to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. The business owners who can anticipate what's going to happen based on the things that we're seeing already and make decisions now will determine which one of these curves down the road they're on. So there's the top curve here is once we come out of survival mode, we sprint, we drive, and then we thrive. And so in those cases, I mean, look where this curve is. The top curve is actually higher than where it was when we started 2020. There is a lot of opportunity out there for businesses that you need to recognize and act on if you can. It's a great time to grab market share, okay? Don't be mad at businesses that are marketing right now. They're not evil. They're just trying to survive. They're trying to leave the lights on. The smart businesses are finding ways to still thrive even in adversity like we have now. So it's really up to you. Right now we're in lockdown and the sales have dropped. The smart business owners are adapting their business model to what's going to happen when we're done. Now, what could that be? Well, let me use my own firm as an example. I did a lot of driving around. I visited people, talked to groups, shook hands, had lunches with people. It was all very social, did a lot of networking. I'm sure a lot of you did the same thing. Now, all of that is impossible. But I was able to pivot my business right away. I went totally digital. I do everything online now. I closed my office near the Strand and closed my training center. I'm working out of my home now. Everybody that I work with that handle my marketing and so forth are also working out of their homes, and it works just fine. And so I was able to pivot to change my business. And you know what? I may not go back to the office. I may not bring these people back. I may just decide to do everything remotely because it works so well. So when you're adapting your business model, don't necessarily think of it as being temporary. There are some things that people are discovering now that are and changes that they have to make now that are going to last, and they may not change back. And Zoom webinars and Zoom meetings like this are a perfect example. Okay, so as a business, which curve would you like to be on? Would you like to be on the above one, where there's a sprint as soon as we can open up the economy and this business thrives? Are you going to kind of leave things the same and you may come back and you may not? Or are you going to just not do anything and let your business kind of die over a period of time? So we're going to talk about over the next few weeks some specific things that businesses can do, having to do with great customer service and technology and new methods of marketing and so on and so forth. But it really is up to you as an individual business owner to make the decision to change your path. Okay, so here's a few questions. Have you adapted your business model yet? Have you pivoted? If not, you need to look at it. Your competitors are probably doing that, and when the green light goes on and the race starts, you don't want to be left behind. Are you thriving like our clients? It's a good time to take market share now while your competitors are not paying attention. Some of them are going to be stuck. Some of your competitors are not going to be able to survive. I know we're all in this together, but there's still competition. I mean, that's what capitalism is all about. And so you're not taking advantage of people who are in a weaker position. What you're doing is when those businesses go out of business, somebody has to get those customers. So make a plan to see how it can be you. Okay. Resolution things to take market share while the economy is regrouping. Preparation now is the key for business success. So again, don't wait. Don't wait for things to get better. Don't wait for the economy to open up. Don't wait for the green light to go on and for the sprint to start. Start planning for this now, and put together your action plan. Okay, this is the path that business is following right now. Phase 1 is in the red, and we went into lockdown. Right now, we're somewhere in between that and phase 2. We've been given some light at the end of the tunnel. There's some decisions being made on how to open up the economy. I haven't watched the news yet today, so maybe it's already being done, but our governor is going to be announcing a plan to step-by-step reopen the economy in Texas. It will be done probably county by county, and it will be based on the level of risk in each county. So highly populated counties like Bexar County and Harris County and Dallas County are going to be slow to open up because they're in high-risk categories. Other counties, and there are 228 counties or something like that in Texas. Some of them have more cows than people, and so those will be opening up fairly quickly because those are low risk. Where are we going to be in this area? I would say we're probably close to the higher risk category, but that's not for me to say. In any case, we will start to see some movement on that. We'll start to get some clarity on exactly when this is going to happen, how much longer we're going to have restrictions. The restrictions will probably be lifted in a phased way as well. And so we're just waiting to hear from the governor on how that's going to happen. My point here is this. We know that at some point, the lockdown end that will be announced. The date will be announced. At that point, you need to be ready to start warming up, getting ready for the sprint. When the lockdown ends, a lot of things are going to happen, and you want to be ready. One of the things that you need to for sure look at is, do you have the capacity to reopen? And many of you have had to let your staffs go, or they're on furlough. You need to retrain. You need to get new people. Be thinking about how you're going to ramp up, because this is not going to last forever. And we're starting to see the end of this. There's light at the end of the tunnel, like I said. And so now it is time to start giving a lot of serious thought on how you're going to reopen and how you're going to sprint and how you're going to thrive going forward. Okay, so think about the amount of massive pent-up demand that we have. People need supplies. If you have a hairstyle salon, for example, you're going to want to get in as soon as possible to get touched up. The same with haircuts. I've been on many webinars, and I can just see people's hair growing and growing and growing, and You know, there's a massive amount of pent-up demand everywhere. Are you prepared from a capacity standpoint to handle that? I've already talked about the geo-phased reopening of the economy. You need to really look at how your staff, your supply chain process and facilities are going to restart. I want to make a few comments about supply chain. Think about what's happened so far, some of the issues and shortages that we've had. Think about HEB, for example, with groceries. The demand has probably doubled for food and for supplies and for anything that you would buy in terms of meals. Everybody who used to go to restaurants can't go anymore, but people still have to eat, so there's a lot more being bought at grocery stores like HEB. You know, also schools. How many thousands of kids got their lunches from school and now they're at home? And so when you're going to reopen, you have to not only look at yourself and your staff and your own business, but also your supply chain to make sure that you can get the things you need to have in order to open. But give some thought as to how much market share could be lost if you're unprepared. And what's the pathway for your business to be prepared for the sprint that will happen? Okay, so be prepared to sprint. Ensure that you, your team, your business are prepared. Make sure you have capacity to exceed the pent-up demand that's out there. Be prepared with superior customer service to create a wow effect. All this time, you should have been keeping in communication with your customers, sending them information on social media, you know, however you communicate. If you were a appointment-based business, like a barbershop, a hair salon, a dentist office, you should have already rescheduled people to the following months. You've been in contact with them. It's to not only to make sure that they have their appointment, but it's to keep them in your fold and so they don't go somewhere else. But most importantly, it's to make them feel important. If you're not making your clients and customers feel important right now, there's a good chance they're going to go somewhere else. So create your personal and business training plan and give some thought as to what your pregame warm-up is so that you're ready to sprint. And it is possible to take market share at this disruptive moment, be a leader, not a follower, and get out there in front of everybody. Okay. So, plan to compete, grow, and dominate in 2020. A lot of us have been depressed, have kind of said, well, I'm just going to wait it out. No, there's no reason why you still can't aspire to meet the goals that you set for your business and yourself at the beginning of the year. We still have a whole second half of 2020 to deal with. What will you do to market into the new normals that are in your marketplace? What adaptations will you keep in place permanently? How have your competitors adapted? You need to understand the market and how you can compete like that. And how have your customer expectations and habits changed? Okay, restaurants. A lot of restaurants, the dine-in facility had to close. And so they reverted to curb service with drive-up and with delivery, okay? A ton of restaurants have done that. How has that changed the customer's expectations now? Can these restaurants go back to just dine-in, or are they now going to, from a competitive standpoint, have to continue with curb service and delivery? So think about that for your business. And also, we have available these pivot points and resources to reallocate. And once you decide what to do, things are changing so much. This is the most dynamic business environment we've ever seen. Things are changing every day and every week. So whatever you decide to do with your plan, make sure that you are reviewing it and updating it every week to make sure you're not going off course. So just remember to be intentional. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So the 10% happened. We're all in it. The 90% is up to you and what you decide to do. So create your plans, be prepared to sprint forward and grow. Look at your capacity and make sure you're providing superior service that your customers desire. You can schedule a 20-minute pivot and prepare call with me or one of my colleagues, or you can plan a 2-hour pivot and sprint forward strategy session, which will create your entire 2020 plan. That's what we're here for. This is what we do, and we've opened our doors to everybody. So our solemn oath is, and you can't see it here for some reason, our solemn oath is this: every business that needs help will get it. So Amy and I are available, as well as our colleagues at the Chamber, to help you in any way we can. There it is. Every business that needs your help, that needs help, will have it. This is our action coach team around Texas. We are all trained coaches. We're all here to help you. And there I am.